Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Amber Haskell, and I'm the Vice President and Executive Director with the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And I have the privilege to oversee our Pacesetters Supplier Development Initiative and Responsible Sourcing Initiative. While much of our attention focuses on the development of responsible sourcing practices within our network of corporate buyers, Pacesetters also aims to provide the best possible insights for small Massachusetts-based businesses to engage them and partner with buyers like Mass General Brigham. Our Doing Business series is a key element of that, and we're grateful to all of our corporate buyers for their participation and to our founding initiative funder, the Eastern Bank Foundation, for their continued commitment to this work, and of course to Mass General Brigham for sharing their insights with the small business community. Before I introduce today's speakers, I just have a couple of quick notes and housekeeping items. Firstly, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared on the Chamber's YouTube page shortly after the presentation. We will not be sending out slides. For those of you who are joining us live, please submit your questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A feature on the right-hand side of the screens, making sure you send to all panelists. Or you can email questions to foundation@bostonchamber.com. I will be on at the end to put as many of these questions as possible to the Mass General Brigham team. And now I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. First, we have Todd Turner, Senior Director of Strategic Sourcing at Mass General Brigham. Todd leads strategic sourcing for electives and services at Mass General Brigham. He spearheads sourcing strategies across the health system to drive operational excellence, cost optimization, and value capture over time. He also works on impact purchasing policies that promote capitalization for local and regional businesses, enhancing the local economy. Strategic economic engagement combined with organizational growth gives his leadership the balance to achieve desired outcomes. Welcome, Todd. Next, we have Dennis McDonald, Program Manager, IT Contracts at Mass General Brigham. Dennis oversees managing technology contracts and business relationships within the system and leads the strategic initiative to increase these relationships. Welcome, Dennis. Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, we have Dina Shaheen, Impact Purchase Program Associate at Mass General Brigham. Dina works as an Impact Purchasing Program Associate, a lot of P's in that statement, to enhance local businesses' participation in the organization's operations. Her work supports the development of purchasing policies aimed at business empowerment and economic impact. With her operations and vendor management experience, she seeks to improve the business accessibility of the supplier side of the healthcare value chain. Dina endeavors to support local businesses in establishing a partnership framework with the Mass General Brigham Institute. Welcome, Dina. And with that, I will start sharing the presentation and pass it over to Todd.
All right, I have to come off mute. So thank you for that very nice welcome and introduction. We are going to start if you want to go to the next slide. So just a quick overview of our presenters. And I just want to start by saying Lisa's unfortunately had a last minute conflict pop up and unable to make it. I know she wanted to be here to kick this off for us and talk about how important this program is to Mass General Brigham. And then myself, Dennis, and Dina will walk us through the rest of the presentation and really just to talk about our impact purchasing program and how you can engage with us. So this was Lisa's slide. So I'm going to do my best to kick it off, but she and our leadership in the organization at Mass General Brigham are very committed to our impact purchasing program. And this is nothing new for us. We've been involved with Pacesetters for as long as I can remember, probably 10 or 12 years at least, if not longer. And, back when we were Partners Healthcare, before we went through our name change to Mass General Brigham, we were involved with Pacesetters. And this is just something that's always been very important to us for a number of reasons. And I think we'll get through that in some of our slides. But as an organization, we are committed to our neighborhoods that we serve in, the businesses that support us, and really local small businesses, which are so critical to our business. So quick background on Mass General Brigham. Like I mentioned, we were previously Partners Healthcare, so you may know us by that name. We did go through a name change around 2021. But we're a large integrated health system, as you can see there, devoted to patient care, research, and medical education. We are the largest hospital-based research enterprise in the United States. So we, as an organization, all of our hospitals doing research, we are the largest recipient of NIH grant funds for a hospital system in the country. And we use that money, obviously, for very important research and academics in the organization. You've probably heard of our two flagship medical centers, Mass General Hospital and Brigham and Women's Hospital. Those are our anchor institutions that this organization was built around. We serve about 2.5 million patients annually across Boston and New England. You may have seen commercials in the past about the size of our organization. We've got 82,000 employees across the system, providing all manner of support for not only our patients, but we're in roles, Dennis, Dina, and I, to support our clinicians and caregivers. And it's just a large organization providing great care across New England. And lastly, we are focused on economic impact in the region. This is something that's very important to us. We feel that investing in the communities that we serve is one of the best ways to create health equity in our system. On to the next slide. So this is our four-part mission. I won't go into each of these in detail, but really, Mass General Brigham is committed to not only serving our communities, but to completing our four-part mission, which is patient care, research and discovery, education, and community service. So a little bit about our locations. We are a regional network. 99% of our locations are located within the 128 Beltway. Maybe it's not quite that high, but it's close. And we are primarily based in Massachusetts, with some locations around New England and New Hampshire, and some auxiliary locations in southern Maine as well. So again, we've got our key locations, which are downtown Boston, Mass General Hospital, and Brigham and Women's Hospital, and then a number of community hospitals and specialty institutions round out our systems. So one of the important things is, as we engage suppliers and vendors, is that because we do have, even though we're fairly centralized, we do have a distributed geography across New England, and we do require goods and services at all of those locations. And one thing about operating a hospital system like ours is that we do have specialty hospitals in unique scenarios where we do require small local vendors to help support our needs. And just a couple examples of that are, our locations in Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, where we can't use suppliers that the main hospitals and main locations in Boston are using. So, and similar for a lot of our community hospitals, right? We've got to make sure that we've got suppliers that are serving those locations that are located nearer to those locations. And lastly, I'll just say that we do support the Massachusetts economy, and our presence in New England really does help support, outside of our 82,000 employees, thousands of jobs and businesses across the region. So I'm going to stop there and turn this over to my colleague, Dennis McDonald, to talk a little bit about what we do in supply chain.
Hi, folks. Dennis here. And Basically, we want to talk about, give an overview of what we buy and how we go about doing that. So this is a simple slide, but it tells a lot. So we buy, obviously, you folks as well know this, IV sets all the way to, if you see facilities and construction, we have a lot going on and a lot of business to share. We're currently building a 2 million square foot facility in our MGH Boston campus. So we need the small businesses. We have a lot to purchase. So if we go to the next slide, please. So these are the brief, pretty important steps. So let's start with register. It's very important you go onto our supplier gateway, the vendor portal. We have support if you get into a problem. Very important that you register on our supplier portal so we know who you are. You can receive opportunities, review updates, that sort of thing. So it's important to be registered and a part of our system. To engage, you find opportunities, bids, new contracts, working with our impact purchasing team. And so we align with your capabilities. So when you submit proposals, you talk to stakeholders, business holders, you stay involved, and you attend events like this one. So once you're signed on, we know about you and we can start talking to you. So it's important to start that process. And then onboarding, it's important to note that there's a lot of regulatory, fed and state regulations. I know you all know this already, but please work with us to make sure that we complete all those pieces that we're contractually obligated to do. So from the get-go, if you can work with us on that, that would help the process. Next slide. Good. So why do we choose local small businesses? Well, we believe local small businesses keep money in the community. Purchasing goods and services locally creates jobs and fosters growth right here in New England. It's very important to us. As Todd mentioned, we've been doing it forever. We're going to continue to do so. Community health and resilience. Working with our local suppliers enables us to support community needs. For example, we partner with organizations run in neighborhood health centers and programs to improve local health outcomes. In recent years, we invested over $200 million in community health programs and safety net services. Shared mission and values. As mentioned, we're 82,000 strong MGB family. We care about each other and our patients. We find local businesses often share in this community-minded spirit. Partnering with you helps us deliver on our mission in a way that benefits all of us. So please, we love having you on this call today. Follow those easy steps, and we want to work with you. It's important. Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton over to Dina to continue.
Dina, you're on mute.
Hello? Sorry about that.
Yep.
Thanks, Dennis.
Now we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dina Shaheen, and I manage the Impact Purchasing Program here at MGB. I'll go ahead and close this out today by sharing what the Impact Purchasing Program is really about and the commitments that we're proud to stand behind. At its core, this program is about using our purchasing power to invest back into the communities that we serve. That includes 4 core areas. One is local investment. We prioritize sourcing from local suppliers right here in Massachusetts, because when we support local economies, especially in historically underinvested communities, we help build a long-term economic strength. And it's not just about buying locally, it's about investing in the very communities that we serve. Innovation. Local businesses sometimes bring things that large firms can't, and that's insight. They live here. They understand the day-to-day realities of our patients, of our staff, and of our neighborhoods. We've seen local vendors offer local solutions, and that's the kind of innovation that doesn't come from a playbook. It comes from being part of the community. Vendor access. Working with a large organization can be overwhelming. The forms, the onboarding, the bidding process, it's a lot. That's why we try to walk with our vendors through every step, from registering in our system to understanding RFPs, refining your services, submitting invoices, and even scaling to meet demand. Our goal isn't to just work with local suppliers, it's to build them up so they can succeed, not only with us, but beyond us. And 4, community impact. At MGB, we're not just looking at costs. We asked who gets hired? Where does this value go? Does this business reinvest locally? If the answer is yes, that's the kind of impact we want to grow. We believe a healthy community is where small businesses are given the room to grow, no matter what their starting point. Next slide, please. So if you're a vendor or if you know a vendor who's interested in doing business with MGB, I encourage you to reach out. You can contact me directly. Again, my name is Dina and my email is down below. Or you can also visit mgb.org and check out the supplier section for more information. Thank you for your time and thank you for your interest in doing business with MGB.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all. And I have a few questions. Um, I'm going to start actually selfishly with my own questions, and then I'm going to pop to some of the ones for you all who have thrown them in the chat. For those of you who might have questions, please throw them in the Q&A box. It's how they get to us the fastest rather than the chat box. So Dennis, I'm going to actually start with you. You talked about kind of the process of going from, the gateway portal, then engage with us, and then onboard. I think a lot of times we hear small businesses say, hey, I registered in someone's portal and then nothing happened. So what does that engagement piece look like? What advice do you have for a small business who's looking to engage with Mass General Brigham?
Thanks. That's a great question. So the first thing is Dina that you see on your screen. She's part of the portal. Dina is our representation. That's the person you're going to speak to when you put your information into the portal. She's going to find it there. She's going to talk to you if it's incomplete or if you have any questions. She's the person to reach out to. Of course, we're available as well, but we have our friend Dina here who can answer any questions. It's pretty straightforward when you go through the sign-on purchase, process. But any questions, we have someone full time for that. Hopefully that answers that question.
Dina, anything you want to add as the person who kind of is fielding all of these?
Yes, absolutely. I have worked with so many vendors that reach out and I do onboard them into our supplier portal. And it really just is about engagement and not giving up. I have a vendor that has been reaching out to me for 2 years and they finally updated some of their services and I was able to finally get them business within one of our departments. So it does take time, but it's just about consistency and not giving up. So
Amber, I just want to add to that Dina is situated in a great position to help facilitate a lot of that. So she does sit in supply chain and she does work with a lot of our category and portfolio managers. And so she can really help make those connections once she understands what a company's capabilities are and what the products or goods and services are. She can help connect with the right portfolio manager to really try to find alignment for the vendor.
That's perfect. Because that kind of leads me to my next question. Todd, you kind of hit on it a little bit, and it's something we got in the question. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but if someone has a good or service that might not traditionally fit right with what might be procured by a hospital, but they think they potentially could provide value. Is the best option to go to, just to reach out or go to the portal and then reach out and say, hey, I do something that's might fit, might not. Um, is that the best thing to register and then say, hey, Dina, here's what I do?
Yes, absolutely. And again, Dina, because of her exposure to so many different category and portfolio managers, can really help find who the right people are to engage around those unique services. I mean, there's stuff that we buy that come through our supply chain and again, we're not just focused on supplies. We are focused on supplies, but also all of the services that are used at the hospital, and all of that comes through a single supply chain. And so with Dina having exposure to that, she might be able to make alignment where you would think, to your point, Amber, maybe that's not what a hospital usually buys, but there's a lot of stuff out there that we buy that still surprises me. So yes, absolutely, that's the right direction.
Awesome. Question came in about kind of, RFPs. So someone wanted to know, is it kind of I guess I'll start with this is do you all have open RFPs or are RFPs kind of for those who are shared with those who are registered in the portal? Someone asked, "Hey, should I reach out before I see an RFP or should I wait for an RFP and then kind of introduce myself as a business or as a potential vendor?" What would you all prefer? What's the best option there?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a published list of RFPs. We typically do them by invite only. So I think getting registered in the port. So that's probably the bad news. The good news is that we're always looking for suppliers to participate in our RFPs. That's where we go to Supplier Gateway, which is our supplier portal, because we can search by what your company provides in that portal. And so we can help align the vendor with what the requirements are in those RFPs. And so that's probably the best way. But alternatively, if you're working in the organization and you hear about an RFP or you hear about some business coming up, or you have a concept or an idea that you think could fit our organization, again, reaching out directly to a business owner is perfectly fine. And I think, if you go the extra step and want to talk to Dina about getting registered as a supplier, and do that, and at the same time have conversations with stakeholders and business owners, I think that's a good approach as well. There is a group over at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I think it's probably it's several years old, but it's an innovation group. And what they're looking for is small, innovative vendors that maybe don't have the capital or the presence to support the entire system, but they've got a great idea that at some point could scale. And so it's called DIG, I think is the Digital Innovation Group, and it's focused mostly around technology, healthcare technology. But again, it's a great opportunity for small sort of incubators to come and get their ideas promoted in the organization. And we can make that connection as well.
That's awesome and a great way to support small businesses scale to be able to do business with an MGB or another large institution like you all.
Correct. Yep.
This question's come in a couple times. Can you share a little bit about what kinds of professional services you all procure? People know about kind of HR and legal, but are there any other services on the professional services side specifically that you all procure?
Yeah, I could probably go on for about 2 hours on the services that we procure. I just think about anything, whether it's environmental, whether it's facilities, whether it's maintenance and repairs. IT is obviously a category. We have, a large pool of independent contractors that do work on our behalf, and those independent contractors do everything from, helping to keep fish tanks clean in our lobbies to, working on some of our high-end imaging equipment, right? So it really runs the gambit. And, if you can imagine it, we probably need it somewhere across our system. Dennis and Dina, feel free to weigh in because I think you guys have been exposed to some of this as well. But
no, I agree. I mean, in 27 years being with this wonderful company, we buy everything and anything and need multiple services. So don't think you are not. Get ahead, put it in front of us. We'll tell you. That's all we ask.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree as well. We recently actually just did business with entertainment petting zoo because we had a child's event for children. So they reached out to us and they probably never thought that MGB would use a petting zoo as a business. So we really do use a very wide array of businesses. And a lot of times we work with large organizations. So even if we can't, sometimes we try to subcontract that through the organization we already work with, which is also another opportunity.
And one thing I'll just throw out related to that, we just acquired a linear accelerator over at Mass General Hospital, and part of that acquisition was taking on all of the maintenance and support for that piece of equipment. And one of the things that kind of caught us off guard is the amount of suppliers that are needed to support that. And yes, some of it's very specialized, but some of it is also is, I don't want to say is simple, but we've got, there was a need for a machine shop, right? And it was to have this machine shop develop or create these very specific parts for this linear accelerator that were needed that we couldn't just get off of the shelf somewhere, right? So it's that type of engagement that we need from our local suppliers that, even if we could find that elsewhere, I think the goal would be to work with somebody local to be able to provide those, to provide that type of support.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I know you all talked about this earlier too, with all of your locations across the state, thinking about the islands, right? Like a lot harder to have someone, national to come in and we could get that thing fixed and ready to go locally, and why it's so important that we, think locally when we think about procurement.
And Amber, you just made me think of something else. So I just want to touch base on this. So our suppliers that support the Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard are typically small, very small businesses, and it might only be one or two people. And in a lot of cases, what we've had to do is really kind of modify our typical business terms to accommodate suppliers like that. So, just as an example, typically our payment terms are 45 days. And, that can be a challenge for a small business who's maybe not as capitalized as some of the large businesses that we work with. And we find ways around that, right? So we want to engage our local suppliers, our small businesses. We want to make sure that we're being fair to them. And so, if you're working with us and you have those special needs, those are things that we can and will accommodate.
That's awesome to hear. Um, Question about contract length when RFPs kind of come up for renewal. I assume it's going to be different by sourcing category, but can you share a little bit? We have someone who's asking specifically on the facilities management side, but do you all have buying cycles where you say, every X amount of years we know a contract in this category or that category is going to come up for bidding? And can you share a little bit about what those timetables look like or those cycles look like for you all?
We don't. So I think we're just like every other organization who's a little bit tight on finances, and it's not just recently, but our buying cycles, we would like to say, are very consistent, but they're not, because a lot of times what we'll do is have deferred maintenance on an item or we'll try to extend the life of a piece of capital equipment. And so something where we'd say it's on a 5-year life cycle, we're trying to get 7 years out of it and things like that. So it's not, we don't really have a specific buy cycle like that. Our fiscal year is October to September, so that's probably the closest that we come to a buy cycle. But a lot of this stuff is really just based on need and timing. Dennis, you're a lot closer to the capital stuff than I am, so you may have a different perspective.
I agree. There's sometimes when, there'll be a larger project or we have to get a new type of pump into our system or something like that. But by and large, it is the need, as Todd mentioned, as the need arises and that sort of thing. So no, we're good. Yeah.
All right, I have a question about certification here. Do you all require small businesses to be certified as a small business to participate in your guys' buying program?
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
Easiest answer right there.
And we do take self-certification. And I
Okay.
have helped vendors in the past that like when they are ready to certify, if they just need any like resources or information, I can always provide that to them. But no, we don't require it.
Great. Few more questions about the your guys' registration in the portal. If we could get some clarification of once someone's registered in the portal, I know you guys talked about, being invited to bid. Just clarifying kind of how that process works. So is it you guys have an RFP, you go to your portal, you search, and then people are invited, or once people are in the portal, they are able to see kind of what RFPs are out there?
So, Todd, if you don't mind if I just take this away.
Yeah, good. Yep.
Basically, I hear about a lot of the RFPs that are going on inside the organization, so that's why I would be your point of contact. If there are any RFPs that I'm just like, oh, I know this vendor that would be a great match for this, I can recommend them to that department specifically. Or I can go on the portal itself, just like Todd said, and I can search them. So that's why it is really good to just stay engaged, even if it's just like every 6 months reaching out, letting me know like any services that have changed, any products that have been improved, just so that I can keep you in the back of my mind when there are opportunities. It's really good to just stay consistent so that you're the first person that can get to them.
I would just add too that as our vendor friends on the call know, you hear things as well, and you're doing your job. You're out on our in our real estate, right? So we like you to come to us first, not develop a whole big thing, then come to us because we just take you back to square one. That's why we have this process. You get signed on the system. We know who you are. You come and contact Ina or Sal, and they say, "Oh yeah, they're in the vendor portal. We're aware of them." So it just helps the process be a cleaner, smoother process. We don't let everyone know. Just because you're in the portal doesn't mean you're going to know about every RFP. So I just want to be clear with that. But certainly there's communication with Dina, with you all knowing, coming to us, coming to Dina, and that's a lot of the communication as well.
We have a question here about, how do you kind of make yourself competitive against some other vendors? When you guys are looking at vendors, do you kind of have minimums or floors of, oh, hey, we need a business to be who's been around for X amount of years or has a track record that looks like Y, or, we prefer a vendor who's already worked with another hospital. Do you have any kind of requirements like that, or any insight you can give onto your thought process on how vendors are chosen?
Yeah, I mean, so when we go through a bid process, we are focused primarily on price and value. But that's not, and all of those other things that you just mentioned are also very important. So we do reference checks. We do ask, who are your current customers? Who are your competitors? So there's a lot of vetting that we will do with our suppliers when we're to support the decisions that we make.
But I think I hear an inner question too. We're not going to pick a large vendor who's been around forever over a newer vendor because, of course, that newer vendor could have that exact service we need today on a small machine next door to the linear accelerator, right? So you never know. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask oh,
Go ahead,
go ahead.
Amber. I was
Oh,
just going to
no.
try to answer some of these questions that I'm seeing too. I'll just hit on a couple real quick. Yes, we do use leadership and executive coaching in the organization. In terms of inventories, I think we are an LUM organization, lowest unit of measure. So because of our locations and our facilities, we don't have large warehouses to store a lot of product. We rely on our vendors to do that. So we don't really warehouse anything. We ask our vendors to do that for us. Just an example, our primary med-surg vendor delivers, I think, 5 truckload trailers to Mass General Hospital on a daily basis. So, there's no way that we could store that amount of product in our locations. That's the kind of stuff that we ask our suppliers to do for us. There's a question in here about facilities and facilities management. Again, those are very local decisions. There isn't really any sort of facilities management decisions that are made at a corporate level. Where we might do something is we'll decide on what products are used for facilities management and maintenance so that we can leverage economies of scale, but not necessarily on the services. So I think I got most of those, or a few, not most of them, but a few.
I'm going to jump to a question that I had on my list, and I think goes back to some of the other questions that we had in the chat. And that was, you talked about some of the regulatory compliance that vendors have to go through. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those requirements are? Whether they be things like insurance, I'm sure on the construction side there's bonding, but what are some of the things that are non-negotiables for vendors who are doing business with you all?
First and foremost is protection of patient data. So that's primarily the biggest issue that comes up. So if you are going to have access to patient information, we would require you to be what's referred to as a business associate, and you would need to sign our business associate agreement. And that's the primary one. There's other things if you're doing work internationally around the DPAs that we would require. There's some import and export controls that we require. So it just really depends on the service. I think, as you mentioned, bonding for construction is absolutely a requirement. And a lot of this stuff is really just focused on managing our risk as an organization.
And just to add, we have a standard vendor packet that we work with the vendors. It spells out everything. It's got your tax information we need and everything else. So it's there. It's not, we just don't give you a list. It's a whole vendor packet that we work with our purchasing department and each of you all that are on the call.
Question quickly, I guess not quickly, still have time. Do you all track your spend goals with small businesses, and do you share that data out?
We don't have small business spend goals specifically.
Okay. But no goals, but do you track your spend internally?
For small businesses, yes. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, trying to get through a few more of these. Can you talk a little bit? I know you talked about a little bit about subcontracting or tier two spend. Can you talk a little bit about how you all support the facilitation of a smaller business subcontracting with one of your larger vendors?
Yeah, we do it pretty frequently with on the contingent staffing side. So that's an area where there are a lot of vendors in that space, and just for us to be able to manage it, we have one MSP that we work with, which is a managed service provider, and we ask all of the subcontractors to work through that one vendor. So it's not for us necessarily about cost savings. It's just really being able to manage the volume of work in that space. And we do this in a lot of other categories. That's just an example that comes to mind. I think there's a related question in the chat too about, small businesses partnering with large businesses on RFPs. Again, that's something that we've done in the past. We're certainly open to that as long as there's a good partnership there. So yeah, not any issues or concerns with that.
Does Mass General Brigham, when seeking a bid, use a standard template or request? And if so, are there examples that vendors could see before they apply for an RFP?
Yeah, so we have a standard RFP template that we use that, and it's kind of broken down into three categories. So I guess, pardon the use of my terminology here, but we have what's referred to as the boilerplate language. So that's the stuff that we would need to be consistent across most of the categories. And that deals with our sort of insurance, our indemnification, things like that, that again, probably boilerplate, at least what we consider. The second category is around pricing. So that varies from bid to bid. So it's just something that we track as part of the bidding process, obviously. And then the third category is around the requirements or the technical specs, if you will. And again, that changes from bid to bid, but happy to share that with anybody. If you've got an interest, reach out to Dina. She can give you at least the boilerplate stuff so you know what you'd be looking at in terms of the bid process.
Wonderful. This is a great question. Are there any service areas or product areas where you have a lack of suppliers that, this is the area where you would encourage small businesses to throw their hat in the ring and connect with you all? Or on the flip side, is there an area where you're like, hey, we have a ton of people in this category. It makes it really, really competitive. And just to know you're competing against, 30 other vendors.
I think we have a little bit of both, but I think what I'll just kind of start with here is that there's some, I guess, changing dynamics in healthcare space where maybe we don't have a plethora of talent or resources for. So, home health care is an area that's starting to emerge more. Sometimes it's referred to as hospital at home. And it's where we're actually providing hospital level care to somebody in their home. And so there's a need around nursing, around people to deliver the equipment, people to pick it up, people to make sure that prescriptions are getting there. So there's a big need in that space. We are working with some larger vendors in there, but I know that, again, great opportunity for probably subcontracting or coming up with some innovative solutions around that space. Another area that probably won't surprise anybody, but just work around AI. And I think it would be a rare occasion when we talk to a vendor who doesn't say that they've got AI capabilities. And I think, just to be candid, we all kind of struggle with what that means. And so, anybody who might have an expertise in AI or what they call a prompt engineering or things like that would certainly be some areas where I think we're probably trying to find some guidance and expertise.
So I have a few questions in the chat right now that are pretty specific to what they do. I'm going to reiterate, everyone register in their portal, connect with Dina. MGB uses a variety of vendors, looking for different vendors. So that's your best way to connect and see if you have a good product fit or service fit with MGB. All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of a left turn here. What are some of the pitfalls that you see that small business vendors kind of make that you're like, oh, I wish small businesses knew when they're going through the RFP process, don't do this or make sure you do that. What's that one thing?
Dina, any thoughts there?
The one thing I would say that I've seen even outside of my time at MGB is don't put the lowest price you think just because you want to get the bid. It's really important for you to know the quality of your work and the quality of your business and put what you need. And that is the most important thing to us, especially with me managing this program, is impact. We don't want to give some, a small vendor contract because they have the most least price that we can save money with. The most important thing to us is impact. So we want to make sure that these businesses have enough money to support their business and to continue grow. So when it comes to RFPs, at least for my perspective, just make sure that you put the price that you know your work is worth.
I would add that someone who's dealt with a lot of RFPs, the completeness of your and the timeliness of your responses are so important. We can't stop the roll because someone wants an extra week. It doesn't happen. You can reach out to us at any time, and you're, of course, at that time involved with the RFP. So communication back and forth, whoever is running that RFP, we can work on things if we know about them. But we get an RFP and there's empty holes. To be frank, that's a little bit of babysitting, right? And it shows some of that maturity in this round, right? So
I would just say innovative and disruptive is always good in terms of these RFPs. I think, we're a lot of times when we go out to bid, we're expecting a certain type of response, and it's always great when we get something that we weren't expecting.
Awesome. Similar question, and as we kind of wrap everything up, what's your one piece of advice to any vendor? Like whether they're doing business with MGB or with another large firm, what's your one piece of advice to a small business vendor?
if I could just say, don't discount yourself, because I know that one of the questions was, hey, there are too many vendors in this realm, or, so should I not even try, or that sort of thing. So don't think there's a product, there's too many people out there. That's not how you grow your business. You grow your business by contacting Dina, and that's how you get involved with us. So don't say no, or I'm not going to be. Put your name in there. Get in the game here with us. We want to support local businesses, and we're here for you. That's what we do. So.
Dina, anything from you?
I would say something very similar to that. I've worked with so many vendors, and the most important thing is doing what you guys are doing now, continuing to attend meetings like this, putting yourself out there, and knowing that, the value of your work. There are times that I help vendors that even though we haven't been able to personally give them any contracts, I have been able to kind of suggest, hey, why don't you reach out to this company? Or your resource would be really good with this company. So it's just really good to just continue to put yourself out there, learn, network, kind of just what businesses in general, and know that, we are here for you. So anytime you reach out to MGB, you are more than welcome to not only have access to the room, but any resources that you need.
Todd?
I don't think I can top those answers.
That's fair. That's very fair. I'm just going to add one in that, if you're a business who's looking to get support or looking to be connected to buyers like Mass General Brigham, please connect with us. With Pacesetters at the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We will send an email after this webinar with my contact information, Dina's contact information. Please reach out to us. We say this all the time, and maybe 2% of the businesses actually take us up on it. I promise we're nice. I promise we will take the call, and we would love to hear more about what you are doing and how we can connect you to buyers. With that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today and spending a piece of your afternoon with us. And of course, I would like to thank the Mass General Brigham team. Todd, Dennis, Dina, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your insights. Before we hop off, couple of initiatives I'd like to share with you all on the Chamber Foundation side. First, our nominations are open for the Chamber Foundation's 10 Outstanding Young Leader Awards. We encourage you to nominate a rising leader whose bold ideas and impact are shaping Greater Boston's present and future, knowing that entrepreneurs, like a lot of you on this call, are doing that. So if you are under 40 or know someone under 40 who is deserving of this award, please go to gbccfoundation.org to learn more about those awards. And then secondly, if you are a small business or know of a small business who is looking to get connected to resources for business growth, I'd like to direct you to the Chamber Foundation's First Call program. First Call will connect entrepreneurs to business advisors in their local community who can help you understand what your challenges are, and then connect you to local resources that can help address some of those challenges. And again, you can find that at gbccfoundation.org. Thank you all again for joining us. Thank you again to the Mass General Brigham team, and we look forward to seeing you all at an event in the future.
Thank you so much, Amber.